Hola, Minasan. Welcome back to another round of Warhammer research. Continuing my week of stumbling my introductions. Baldermort's Guide to Warhammer. We are returning back because I can't find any more. I can't find any more, and all I keep finding is just only explanations. No specific. I can't find Hearthkin. I can't find Ironkin. I can't find anybody. There's no videos for the specific kin. You know, for the specific kin. All the videos are just what the whole league is as a whole. You know what I mean? And it really, it's very disappointing, quite honestly. You know what I'm saying? It's very disappointing. I guess they're just so still too new. You know, like they're still working on it. Is what I'm saying. If not end the research officially, pause it until they actually do create, until they actually do, get some lore on the on specific kin covered, more specifically. So yeah, I mean, it's just going to be redundant at this point. So it's just going to be redundant at this point. So we'll do Baldermort's Guide to Warhammer, the origins of the kin, League of Votann lore. So at least we could try to answer once and for all, where did these guys come from? Because Xenos is being used very loosely, apparently. Got too many definitions, according to the comments. You know, and so it's pretty confusing, and apparently it might be intentional because of the way that the kin are, as a way of trying to throw off the narrative speaking. I know I'm talking a lot now. We want to get to the whole research, but I'm just trying to get a good handle on where they're going with this, and I think maybe because they're still new, the lore masters are still working on it. So it's okay. It's okay. At the very least, with the origins of the kin, we can at least get a good idea of what direction what they're trying to do. What in terms of creating a new race within already established races and such. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay, so get your notes together for my post research thoughts. This is a call to action. Comment, like, subscribe, follow, hit the notification button, and let us continue the research. Oh, my intros are terrible. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Leagues of Votann lore. Origins of the kin. We talk, my partner and I. Our hearth is strong, our bond unbreakable. Yet we do the dance. We know the steps. We know nothing will change, but we do it anyway. It makes things easier. She sallies at me. Why go? They will never be like us. They are different to us, she says. Yes, but it is believed they are our distant cousins. We have shared DNA, shared history, perhaps a shared future. She retorts. They wave candles at computers, mutter chants at gears and pulleys. Whatever common ancestor you say we may have had is distant indeed. How can you trust those who live the way they do? I retort. Where has trust ever come into trade, let alone battle? We know they are changeable, inconsistent, ignorant and bitter. We are aware. You overestimate these barbarians, she says. Humans. Pah! They breed by chance, luck, and they look like every coupling was the worst possible genetic outcome possible. I respond. Yes. They have their frail and weak of mind or body, and we do not. We are forged, but perhaps we have cheated ourselves.
Oh.
She plays the game. What? She says, puffing up. Oh, don't play that card. You know I play anvil to your hammer, as I have said before. Yes, Yes, they have their negatives in their choice of reproduction. Yet, with every negative outcome, as you put it, there is the other extreme. There is beauty, talent, ability that we no longer can throw up. They have a saying, a 1 in a billion, man or woman. She cuts me off as usual, which is pathetic unto itself, she says.
I like that
Even
art.
if they have the extremes of bad and good, as you say, then their baseline from which these extremes come, it is far lower than our average. And their culture retards any that would have had the potential for greatness. I respond as usual. I know, and I believe, of course I do. And, not but, and. I still think there is merit within them. Potential. A sally I have not heard before now comes from her mouth. I do not want you to throw away your life on a people who will only regret your passing at their own hands in some distant time when they have progressed again. What if they are not moving forward at all, but backwards, declining? Everything we know of them states this is true. And perhaps they do not. All I know for certain is that the tear across the galaxy, the stars, has changed everything. Outside, in far space, she says. No. Here too, you must concede that. She replies, their messes come to haunt us, aye. We fight their corrupt marines. We give them aid by standing firm and destroying their enemies here in the core, reducing the threat they face. We aid them without even their knowledge. And still, I say, I am sworn to my word, and my word is given and not refused. The prospect leaves tomorrow, as do I. You never were able to finish this argument, she says. I just did. By running away? No. By heeding your counsel, but doing as must be done. Your warning in my ears. I now go, but I will be safer for it. But you have done all you can. Now I must do all I can. And I will go. And you will maintain our name in the hold until I return. Can you do that for me? She looks down and then looks up. Yes, I will. Always. And when I return, I shall bring you a pearl the worth of a planet. She looks me deep in the eye. Fight well, endure. Bring honor to our name.
Fantastic writing. Wow. Wow, Baldermort really did a great job of reading that. Damn. Oh, that was so poetic. And we haven't even gotten into the origin part yet. Wow. Wow. So human, the distant cousin of the kin. What direction? What is it that the lore masters are trying to do? You know what I'm saying? I mean, what's interesting about Warhammer so far was that each of the races were very different from one another. You know, like they weren't offshoots of each other. They were their own unique independent race. And here here we have the kin, who are distant cousins of the humans, and it's like but they're trying to treat them like they're trying, like the lore masters are trying very hard to separate them from humans and not be offshoot of humans. And honestly, I wish they hadn't done that. That's why I say I wish they really didn't go that route. They could have just kept them as dwarves, you know? Let them be their own, race. No connection to anything. You know what I'm saying? Like they gave them a very good location that had a very good valid reason why for years they didn't have any contact with any of the other races, including humans. But instead they chose to tie them to humans, and I'm of the opinion that's a very big mistake there. They had a very easy out to explain why the kin was never around through all the years of all the stuff. I mean, look at they did good with the Necrons and retconning them that that they were 6 million years with all the other gods and such, and the other races weren't around just yet. Weren't around yet. Saying like the humans and the orcs and such. Well, the orcs were around at that time, but you get what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? You get what I mean? The Tyranids hadn't arrived yet in the in Warhammer space during that time period. And they had a good excuse of how they showed up into the whole thing. They could have done that with this too. They didn't need to tie it to humans.
Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to
cool.
the factions, forces, and faces of the Warhammer 40k setting, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace. There is only time for war. Don't forget, we have a natural history and mythology channels now. Links in the description, so go have a shufti. Now, let us proceed. And today, we should be delving into the genesis and history of the kin of the Leagues of Votann. Now, do bear with me, as even after the lore, there is much I wish to tell you. So stick around. I guarantee your eyebrows will at least flutter, and you will not regret the stay. And so, as usual, let us lean on the new existing wisdom from the first codex for the Leagues of Votann. To quote, Origins and Adaptions. It is possible that the ancestor cores retain records of all kin history since their earliest days. If such information survives, however, it is likely buried beyond recovery. Accordingly, even the perennially thorough and practical kin have been forced to accept that, after a certain point, their ancient histories blur into myth. The Leagues of Votann are named in honor of Votann itself, who is also known variously as the Primal Ancestor, the Gilded One, or the Stone Mind, amongst others. In some kin myths, Votann was not one being but many, and is sometimes depicted as a group of gleaming golden figures or a wheel of graven stone faces. In other myths, Votann fashioned the first crucibles, then raised the kin up and sent them sailing into the dark void, before oceans of fire and flesh rose to swallow them. Some myths spoke of Votann as eldest and wisest of the first ancestors, themselves shadowy presences, ill-defined and shown in many different forms, both humanoid and otherwise, where they are depicted at all. With typical pragmatism, the kin accept that their myths are too contradictory, allegorical, and suspect to be cited as possessing a definite basis in fact. But none of this troubles them overly. Steeped as they are in tradition and dour realism, the kin feel less need than humans to don the armor of faith. They are not frightened by the inexplicable. Instead, they accept reality as they see it to be. If there are matters in their ancient past of which they have no understanding, then, unless those matters suddenly become relevant to their present, the kin set them aside. Of course, many Grimnir continue to interface with the ancestor cores in the hopes of asking the right questions to unlock portions of their ancient history. Most do this more out of curiosity and a desire for completeness, however, rather than being motivated by some existential need.
The answer is 42. That's all the answer they need. 42. That is all the Votann has to do, is just tell them the answer is 42. That's it. Well, that's all your answers. 42.
For all this, there are certain articles of lost history that the kin deem indisputable fact. They call these the first truths. It is a first truth that their earliest ancestors departed the home world, almost certainly pre-imperial terror, millennia ago aboard fleets of generation ships. It is a first truth that the kin were a cloned people from the beginning, and that the Iron Kin have been with them since those earliest days. It is a first truth also that the ancestors of the kin set out as miners, prospectors, and void dredgers, charged with exploiting the riches of the heavens.
This is true.
Kin myth blends into recorded history around the time their long-march fleets were approaching the galactic core. Why they did not return to the heartlands of humanity is unclear. From the fact that so many kin fleets plunged into the galactic core within a period of only a few centuries, it might be inferred that a deliberate choice was made. It is during this period that the last references to the first ancestors can be found, often blurring with or transitioning into mentions of the ancestor cores. These are themselves also referred to collectively as the Votann, with the kin employing the two terms interchangeably. The first ancestors are cited here as agents of change and held responsible for the majority of the stable mutations, collectively known as clone skeins, that run through the kin gene pool. This pool appears to have been broad, deep and varied from the first, putting the lie to simplistic notions of a clone race all being literally identical. The Votann are thought to have hardened the kin both physically and spiritually. Some accounts claim that this was in response to a perceived threat, others that it was done to ready the kin for inhabiting their harsh new home in the galactic core. In practical terms, the introduction of the clone skeins gave the kin denser musculature, tougher bone structures, higher red and white cell counts, exceptional core strength, and formidable physical resilience. More esoteric, but no less evident, are the changes worked on the kin's spirit, which cause their souls to shine far more dimly amongst the tides of the warp than those of humans. The kin evidence no uncontrollable psychic mutation, and only those with the appropriate psychoactive clone skein can activate the so-called barrier tech that allows psychically active kin to interact with the Empyrean.
Ah, okay. Clone skin. So the clone skin would be the ones with the psychic powers. If I understood that correctly, would be the ones with have the psychic powers connected, closely connected to the warp. To the warp, yeah. Okay, I was wondering about that. Well, like did they have the psychic connections to the warp and such? To be able to join like the rest of the clans. I mean, look at, they got a dwarf wizard. That's pretty freaking awesome.
It is rare indeed that kin fall victim to physical mutation, demonic possession, or the temptations of chaos. Hostile psychic abilities struggle to find purchase upon them. It has been suggested by some outside observers that this very hardening of spirit led the kin to become even more obstinate and conservative in character. If this is so, then it is just one side of a metaphysical feedback loop that has benefited their race greatly across the millennia. Beyond these benefits, there are many cloak skeins that impart useful physical abilities upon kin who possess them, from enhanced reaction times and vision that registers infrared or other energistic spectra, to limited resistance to extremes of temperature, gravity, or strains of cosmic radiation. The list goes on. The clone skeins undeniably aid the kin in enduring the extreme environments of the galactic core. Many clone skeins manifest physically, whether it be unusual coloured eyes or skin, craggy subdermal layers, chemical body odours, or various other giveaways. To humanity, such physical abnormalities would surely be cause for prejudice and mistreatment. To the kin, they are rather badges of valuable ability, either bequeathed by the ineffable ancestor cause or encouraged by the cloner's guilds during gestation. Obscure legend gives way entirely to historical record during the following centuries. A scattered kindred fleet settled new worlds, establishing trade routes and becoming the first Leagues of Votann.
Wow.
End quote.
That's cool. Okay, that's a cool start. How they cloned over time, and the psychic powers gave them all the power, all their abilities and changes to set themselves apart from the humans. It's pretty impressive. I'm still standing by the fact that they should have just treated them as a complete different race and not connect them to humans. No matter how many times I hear it, my brain is screaming. They could have just been separate from humans. They had a very good out on that. I'm not gonna let that go, guys. Nope.
And so, we see the genesis of the kin of the Leagues of Votann. Odd, for it is so dense, actually. This entry means so much if you have but the wit to see. Now the kin are clearly not squats at all, for the squats were slowly made more robust and short due to the heavy gravity on the core worlds they colonized. But this is not the case with the kin of the Votann, for they are genetically engineered. They are designed thus, so they were never as tall as humans. They were never altered by the conditions they were exposed to, as they are all bespoke clones. They were always half-men, as some might put it. An odd statement, one might think, until I lead you into our second quote of the video. So let's get on the same page. Concerning the Men of Stone. To quote, "The Men of Stone were a class of artificially created beings, created during the Dark Age of technology, in roughly Millennium 21. According to ancient accounts, the Men of Stone were engineered by the Men of Gold for the purpose of deep space colonization. Though physically inferior to their creators, they are capable of building great artifices and construct the Men of Iron as their eyes and ears. As the Stone Men existed in a state of half-life, they were unaffected by the demons of the warp, something that made warp travel much easier for them. In time, mankind learned to place itself into the ships of the Stone Men, protecting them from the depredations of the warp. Over time, as mankind expanded into the stars, the Men of Gold lost their influence, and the Men of Stone became ascendant. However, the Men of Iron eventually rebelled against their stone creators, producing catastrophic wars that humanity barely survived."
Wow.
End quote.
Yo, that's crazy. So, I think I mentioned this before. It's like Exo Squad. The humans made the Neo Sapiens. Neo Sapiens ascended and realized, this enslavement, we're actually slaves, and then they rose up and are trying to wipe out humanity. Same situation here. The Ironkin, the Iron Men, as the Men of Iron, as they're referred to, didn't like what had been done to them, and they rose up and took on humanity. To break away. Basically, the Men of Gold engineered the Stone Men and Men of Iron, from scratch, and and treated them like garbage. Oh my gosh! But typical of humans. Very typical.
And this was the tale of the Men of Gold, the Men of Stone, and the Men of Iron. An ancient tale. Hence, from my limited perspective, we have the answer to so many questions. So many comment strings, so many YouTuber videos, all surrounding this one tract from one book by the superb Andy Chambers. From my perspective, the question is answered. For the kin are not squats. The kin are the Men of Stone. They were always short, robust, and of limited soul brightness, They were designed to mimic humans, but not to ever be mistaken for them. And they are close to the Iron Kin, which are clearly early or prototype men of iron. But these ones stayed loyal. The genesis of the Kin states that their fleets went into the core. Before, when they were squats, this made total sense. Now, the Kin were clearly either avoiding a fight with the men of iron, which seems less likely, or had retreated from the rest of the human race when they started to destroy their technology in the purges after or during the cybernetic rebellion, so close in its pace to the Butlerian Jihad of June. But such were the times that pilfering plot ingredients was not as frowned on as it is now. In any case, the Kin matched the description of the Men of Stone so perfectly, I cannot see this as an accident. Now every last person of law asks, "But what do you think?" And I never do. I do read most comments, but I tend to do my tap dance and then go to bed, quite often literally. But today, I do ask. Because this is such a new faction, such new law. Let us discuss it amongst ourselves with vigor, but with respect. Please be nice, but do put down your thoughts in the comments. I read most on videos if I can, but on this one, I will be watching with avid interest. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Old hands, lend me your knowledge. New faces, let me feel your zeal. Hit me up with your perspectives, because I really want to know.
Me too!
As the week progresses, we shall see lots more of the Leagues of Votann. I hope you will join me on the ride.
Wow, that one went really fast. It was 19 minutes, but it felt real quick. He was so good. So good. Let me just see something quick. What was that? Yeah, he's done. Yeah, like he said, they're still very young, still very very new. But I don't wanna content farm Baldermort. I'm gonna hold off on this. I'll hold off and wait until they get some specific ones. You know what I'm saying? Once it like he did one on the Galactic Core, but yeah, it's yeah, well yeah, I'll keep this research on hiatus. I'll come back if they get more info, or else this is where we stop. All right, here we go. Baldermort is as confused as I am. It's just like my comments pointed out. They're playing very loose with the terminology of Xenos. And again, I stand by my opinion that they should not have been tied to humans. You know, they created the Galactic Core, this whole entire area of space that the Votann are the only ones that could be in. The Kin, have been able to handle, and there was plenty of ways to have had them sit there, be their own race, not tied to humans. They could have been like the Tyranids, been in there for millions of years, and then the warp popping in on them, saying the first contact would have been made, and they could have been this could have been their first encounters, saying like these are the first encounters in the current year of 40K. It would have worked, honestly. It would have worked, but it seems like they're trying to tie it like they've always been around. For some reason, I don't know where the lore masters are really going with this. I don't understand the direction, because this is a new faction, this is a new group, saying, but they don't come off like a whole new race, but a whole faction offshoot of humans, because that's where they are. they're cloned. So like they're trying very hard to say, they want space dwarves, but they're trying so hard to, I don't know, saying like I can't figure it out, quite honestly, you know, how they can, how you say. I'm trying to. I can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend their direction. This directional choice. I can't comprehend it. You know what I'm saying? Like this was such a. Honestly, this was such a. This. There's no videos. There's no lore videos out for this faction with specific events, battles, wars, heroes. There's nothing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're in books right now, but they're treated as side characters for the minute, background characters. There's no books yet focused on them. Like say the Necrons with the Comedy and the Divine and so on. You know what I'm saying? And the others. It's I think that they put themselves, that they wrote themselves into a wall here. Something tells me they wrote themselves in a wall by doing this, by tying them to humans. I think they may have wrote themselves into a wall, and they may be struggling, or they probably, because how long have they the Leagues of Votann been around? 9-10 years. I need a year count on this, because if they've been on around for this long, there's no reason to not have any lore stuff, no specific characters, no specific books or anything. You can't just create a whole new race, toss them in there, and then when you write the story, you say, oh, they're tied to humans, and then throw everybody off. Baldermort is one of the best channels out there covering Warhammer lore, and he's confused by the whole thing. He's really coming off confused. He's like really trying to. It sounds like he's trying to accept this fact that they were just straight up clone, manufactured, and engineered artificial beings. But the tying into the humans is the problem. They didn't need to be tied to the humans. There was no need to tie them to the humans. You understand what I'm saying? You gave them their own pocket universe, independent of all the other races. No interactions or anything. It would have worked. It would have worked. And they still could have been space dwarves. Okay? They still could have been space dwarves. They did not need to be tied to humans. I think this is a critical error. I think this is a critical error on the part of the lore meisters, because they're also the squats, which are getting confused with the kin. This is I think this is a big miss here on their part. Very bad miss. Very unfortunate, quite honestly. I don't know how much more I could say until they can create specific stories of specific characters within the Votann to follow, like they did with the Necrons and all the others, the orcs and so on. There's not more I could do. There's not much more I can do. Man, even Baldermort is scratching his head on this one. I could hear it in the end at the end of the video. He's really scratching his head. So, man, this may end up being a big miss on their part. And listen, they had no problem retconning the Necrons. I'd say just scrap the whole thing. The whole connection to the human thing, and just say that they've always been there. Saying that they've been in the core all this time, that they were born in the core, saying that they're an independent race, and just get rid of the connection. They could get rid of the connection and just say they've always been in the Galactic Core. The Galactic Core was a place everyone thought unattainable, to enter into. It's very easy. It's very easy. Just, it could be like going into the Galactic Core was like a death sentence. You'll be lost forever and pop out in some other point in the galaxy or something. But it was the warp that got the Votann, the kin, to actually make first contact with the humans and the Necrons and the orcs and everything, and just brought their brand of chaos and such, going into seeing the whole new resources of these planets, and just started like the Tyranids, saying just go right on in and just start siphoning off the resources to sustain the Galactic Core, where the Tyranids is like locusts, just devastating. The Votann is like, we're repurposing your resource to make the Galactic Core stronger, powerful, saying, and tether it to the warp or something like that. There were ways to do it. The connecting it to humans was a big mistake, but my opinion, it was a big mistake. So, yeah, this is it for now with the Leagues of Votann. Hopefully there will be an actual lore story of specific characters, specific heroes, specific villains, something that can that could do a little more research on. But that's it. I'm sorry, guys. We're moving on to the next race, because now everything's just gonna end up being redundant. So. All right. Head on over to Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and grab yourself a copy of The Impossible Man, a strange fantasy novel written by me. You'll find links to the book down in the description below, along with links to other merchandise, pins, stickers, t-shirts, music. Enjoy the products. Thank you for your patronage. And if you happen to have a copy of The Impossible Man and did a lore video on it, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on it. And if you're interested, you can join me on my live multi-stream on Twitch and Kick every Monday through Thursday, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I do lore research, Japanese cultural studies, gaming, and more. Thank you. I look forward to hanging out with you. Sorry. So, thank you all for joining me, and until the next round of Warhammer research and the next race, I wish you all a good night, buenas noches, and oyasumi nasai.